Welcome to the Interior Design Beat podcast, where you will hear candid commentary on various interior design subjects and topics, including the good, the bad, and the ugly, telling you like it really is. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Interior Design Beat. This is your host and professional interior designer, Stephen C. Adamco, coming to you from Kalamazoo, Michigan. So every once in a while, I'm going to do an episode called People Also Ask. So when you're ever looking for answers to interior design questions in Google, you'll scroll down a little bit and it will say people also ask, and they have other questions that people have entered in, and other people apparently from different venues will answer the question. I find it kind of interesting to read them and also the answers to the question. And some of it I have to laugh at a little bit. And the first one that we kick off with is, how much does it cost for an interior designer to design a room? Well, here's the answer that was given. The most common flat fee is per room, which is determined based on the type and size of the spaces in question. If you include furniture purchases, the average room will cost you between $2,000 and $12,000. But if you opt for just the design work, expect to pay between $450 and $1,500 per room. Wrong. You're not going to get that from me. It's going to be a lot more money than that. Also, it depends on the scope of the project. What quality are we after here? I've done a master bedroom that was large, but it was in the realm of $100,000. And that's not really including my time either, designing all the custom things that went into it. Now, it wasn't too long ago, I redid a room that I did 35 years ago, and we just reupholstered. We didn't add we did add furniture, a couple pedestals that were gorgeous, and I think a couple side tables. And that was $50,000. So this is really on the low side. I don't know what you would get for $450 or even $1,500. My gosh, a sofa and maybe a couple chairs at a low-end furniture place is going to be about $1,500 for that. So I know that's for furniture, but my gosh, what would it be? $45 an hour times 10 hours is $450. $150 an hour times 10 hours is $1,500. Well, there's a lot that goes into a room. Apparently, these people don't really know that. What's an average room? Is there an average room? I don't think so. Are there average people? No. So anyway, I always find that, what does it cost for an interior designer to design a room? Well, it's almost like, what does it cost for an architect to design a house? What does it cost for someone to do an advertising campaign? Well, it depends on the quality of the individual and how wonderful they are in all respects. I mean, I know people who consult with business owners, and if you want to consult with them just for one day, it's $18,800. I know another consultant that big companies use, and I think he's $100,000 a day. So I don't know, if you figure that in there, the averages are going to go up, but I don't see what you'd get for this much. $12,000 doesn't go that far. And it depends on what you're doing, carpet, furniture, artwork, accessories, rugs. Wow. I mean, an Oriental rug can cost $12,000. And when they said, if you include furniture purchases, the average room will cost you between $2,000 and $12,000. Wow. I've got a buffet that costs $16,000. Many years ago, I sold 2 chaises for a library in a residence with hand-blocked cotton chintz, and I believe those chaises were $8,000 a piece. That's 35 years ago. So that's $16,000 for two chaises. That doesn't include my custom furniture either. So, I mean, average is pretty average. You're not going to get long-lasting quality with that, I don't think. You're not going to get excellent design with that, I don't think. I mean, my gosh, some of these online design places like Havenly and whatnot, what, $89 to design a room? Come on. Your dentist charges more than that for a cleaning and a checkup or whatever. And if you have to have a cavity filled, I mean, my gosh, this is a creative endeavor. And yeah, I don't know where people come up with their numbers here, but it must be somebody who doesn't really know a whole lot. And here's another question. How much should interior designers cost? As a general rule of thumb, they say we suggest allocating about 7 to 10% of the home's value for interior design expenses. This will give you a design with some mid-range products. If you're looking for designer level finishes, we recommend budgeting about 25% of the home's overall value. Well, here again, why are they mixing interior designer costs with furniture or products? But I would say that if you had, a $200,000 home, you could allocate $50,000 for interior design services, just design services, not the product. Again, you can see how this varies. You really have to know what you're looking at, what level. It would be like saying, how much does a car cost? Well, are you talking about Ford, Chevy, Kia, Cadillac, Mercedes, BMW, Ferrari, Lamborghini, Bugatti? Okay, you can see there's quite a range there. All right, next question. What do most interior designers charge per hour? And they say most interior designers charge by the hour for their services. Typically, you can expect to see an hourly fee of somewhere around $150, but a designer's rate can range between $50 and $500 per hour. Yep, that's where I'm at, in the $500 an hour range, if I do by the hour. A lot of times I would prefer to charge by the value of what is delivered and expected. And again, you got to know what you're looking at. A lot of people, I think, overcharge for their services, and I can tell they're not that good. I know several competitors who really are overcharging, and they really don't have the beef, so to speak. They really don't have what it takes. Like for me, I'm a professional interior designer. I'm a lighting designer. I'm a furniture designer. I'm a licensed builder. I'm a carpenter. I bring a lot to the table. Plus, I'm a business owner. I look at things from an investment point of view as well as an aesthetic point of view, and all the other things that happen to be part and parcel of great interior design. And a lot of these people have maybe 10% of what I bring to the table, and they're charging way too much for their services, I can tell. But if they get snookered in, or if they get clients that just think that they're worth it because somebody said, oh, they're so fantastic. But yeah, look at their work though. Most people can't judge interior design work very well. They don't know what constitutes great interior design work. You've got to be looking at like Architectural Digest to really be able to judge great interior design, not some of the other shelter magazines that are on the low end of the scale. Next question. What is the difference between an interior designer and an interior decorator? Their answer is, interior design is the art and science of understanding people's behavior to create functional spaces within a building, while interior decorating is the furnishing or adorning of a space with decorative elements to achieve a certain aesthetic. In short, interior designers may decorate, but decorators do not design. I can agree with that last statement. Interior designers may decorate, but decorators do not design. But I will say that sometimes people make too much of a deal about the science of understanding people's behavior. Well, you just understand people's behavior, and you know what needs to be accommodated. I mean, there is art and science to it, but, it's not science as we've got this special formula. Though I would say having a formula or a way of doing things is kind of the science of it in a way. But creating functional spaces and adding furnishings or adorning a space with decorative elements to achieve a certain aesthetic, well, that's design too. That's not just decoration. So you've got the functional, the aesthetic, and the aesthetic has a lot to do with the feeling and the ambiance. And most people who do decorate and some that do design never attain to the aesthetic, as in the defined ambiance that's necessary, with all the elements coalescing and orchestrating themselves together to bring about a certain defined effect. So it's the designer that orchestrates the elements. The elements don't orchestrate themselves. So there has to be a real smart, sharp interior designer that can do that. And that's where I shine the greatest right there, is that I'm able to do all of it and deliver the ambiance as well. So many people really can't. All right, on to the next question. How expensive is it to furnish a house? And then it says, according to consumer and budgeting expert, whoever this lady is, your furnishing budget can be as low as 10% or as high as 50% of the home's cost, depending on your finances. Well, of course, depending on your finances, and it could range the whole thing. It could be 100% of the cost of the house, too. So for a $300,000 home, furnishings can fall between $30,000 and $150,000. Well, hello. I've done a master bedroom for $100,000, not even including my fees. And then what, $30,000? My gosh, I can hardly do a living room for that anymore. So, wow, this is kind of a little out of line. Now, again, it is determined by the level and quality of furniture and furnishings. Yes, you could hit these budgets. You could go $30,000, I suppose, if you go with IKEA and other things and low-end furnishings and whatnot. Sure, it's all based on quality. I mean, take the car example. You know, the more expensive a car is, the more elite it is, the more refined it is, the more special design it has. So consider it's pretty much the same thing. By the time you add custom design, custom furniture, and all these things, lighting design and everything, I mean, you're going to go way above what she recommends, and she's a consumer and budgeting expert. Well, I don't think she's an expert in interior design budgeting. Probably not, from what I can tell here. I mean, she's got a part of it kind of addressed, but not all of it. That is for sure. Another question, somewhat similar. For a high-end design, you should expect to spend $30,000 to $15,000 on a room. Doesn't even say if that's just for furniture or just for design services or furniture and design services. Well, I guess that could come into play. I think it was just for reupholstery on this one room. That didn't include the furniture, just reupholstery, fabric, and the labor to do it and everything else. And the design fee for picking out the fabrics and everything else like that and furniture. I mean, like this living room I did not too long ago, I think it was like $56,000 to $58,000. And we tried to lower some of the items, fabric and whatnot, to come into that range, but it wasn't easy. They further go on to say, in order for it to be worth the cost, your home value should be commensurate with the cost of improvements. Well, that's if it's architectural improvements or things that stay with the house, that are attached to the house. And they say you don't want to put $50,000 investment in a living room or on a living room or for a living room into a $100,000 house. It doesn't make sense. That's what they say. Now, a $50,000 investment, what is that? Is that in architecture? Is that in moving walls? Is that in what? If it's furniture and you take it with you when you leave, who cares if you spend $50,000 when the house only costs $100,000? Maybe you bought it many, many years ago. Or maybe it was one of those that was a fixer-upper that you could really get at a great price and really fix up real nice because it had potential. So anyway, again, some of these people that answer these questions, they're not really that expert on the topic for answering the question. So it's kind of what you want. And if you desire a real luxurious fabric that costs $300 a yard, well, then go for it. If you, let's say, love it so much that you just want to put it on a few toss pillows, go for it. Now, it's going to cost you a lot more to recover a sofa or some chairs or sofa and chairs. Absolutely. But, I'll say that I just had to find some fabric and trim for 4 toss pillows for a house in St. Croix in the Caribbean. And it took a lot more time to find the fabric because we were starting out with a fantastically gorgeous fabric that's already on the sofas that I did 15 years ago or so, maybe 20 years ago. So having to have a fabric that works with this phenomenal hand block cotton print with all the variation of color, and then these wonderful leopard chenille toss pillows that I had made at the same time, and then they wanted some extra toss pillows. Well, it wasn't easy because now the fabric selection is not as fantastically wonderful as it was, I'd say 10, 15, and 20 years ago. The landscape has changed so dramatically that the fabrics, by comparison to then, are boring. They really are. I had a hard time with it. And it was surprising to see not as much wonderfulness as I'm accustomed to. But anyway, by the time we get this done, those toss pillows and everything are probably going to cost a couple grand for 4 toss pillows that are 14 inches square. So a lot of the luxurious fabrics that are so phenomenal that you can just love them for decades, they're worth it. A lot of times you chintz out on the fabric and after a while it just looks that chintzy and then you got to do it over again. And you're better off in the long run just biting the bullet, pay for the nicer fabric, the more luxuriant fabric, because you know what? Just use the L'Oreal principle. You're worth it. Come on. Don't shortchange yourself. You're worth it. So bite the bullet. It's only money. You can't take it with you when you leave. So get some nice toss pillows and some other things. All right, next question. Do interior designers provide furniture? While some interior designers take up only the designing, some help you pick the furniture and decor as well. If you want a hassle-free experience, then check for a designer who can supervise the entire work from procurement of furniture and decor, carpentry work for the kitchen and wardrobes, along with installation. Well, I'm one of the guys that does it all. I do the designing and I sell the furniture. That's right. I sell all the furniture. And I set up the services and find the right people to do the job, typically, unless the client already has, a painter they work with or what have you, or a carpenter that they work with. If I'm doing custom furniture design, I take care of the whole thing. So they don't have to worry about anything. Because there's a lot involved with the designing and all the follow-up and the follow-through and the procurement of the materials to make the final product. So there's a lot involved there. All right, here's another question that's somewhat analogous to some prior ones. How much does new living room furniture cost? Again, that's a wide open question that is subject to the quality level that you are after and your budget. So they said the average cost of a living room set is between $600 and $10,000. Well, I don't do living room sets per se. I mean, all my stuff is designed and orchestrated, not like a matching set. And then where are you going for all this? $600. How much furniture to $10,000? Well, my gosh, that reupholstery job I did on the living room was $50,000. So what are they talking about here? And then they're talking about a living room set that costs less than $1,000, usually consists of only a sofa and love seat. Well, it's not very good quality, I can tell you that. It's not going to last very long. And the construction inside, not what you would expect from high quality furniture, not at all. I mean, with upholstery, you're covering everything up. It could be plywood and just stapled together inside versus, kiln dried hardwood, which is glued and screwed and doweled and pinned and 8-way hand tied springs instead of no sag springs. I mean, my gosh, you can really cut the cost a lot on the inside of a sofa, but you can't see it. It's covered up. But the addition of an armchair and ottoman into your living room set will raise the price bar of the set, costing you more than $1,000. Well, duh. Okay, if they said $1,000 usually consists of a sofa and a love seat, and a armchair and ottoman is going to be more than $1,000. Well, yeah, you're adding more furniture. So sometimes I have to laugh at what they write here. It's like, that's a no-brainer there. Anybody can figure that out. If you add more pieces, you're going to cost more. But anyway, it gives the false impression about what things really cost. And again, it comes down to how much is your budget? What can you do with it? And how can we maximize your budget to get you what you want? How can we maximize your budget to get what you want? Now, let me just say, you're not going to get what you want because you're going to have to compromise. If you've got only that much, I mean, you don't need an interior designer. I mean, not one of my level. That would give me 2 hours of advice maybe for you. And then you wouldn't have any money left over. But let's be real here. Not everybody can afford interior design services at my level. It's harder for the person on limited means because it's harder to get what you want. Now, there's a lot of furniture stores that have sprung up that will give you that cost level. Can't vouch for their wonderful construction. I mean, it's enough to get by. How long it lasts, I don't know. How long it looks good for, I don't know. But quality is still quality. I would suppose that if certain cars were at the quality level of some furniture, I think the wheels would be falling off within the 5,000 miles. But it's an interesting conversation to have. And whether you get a home equity loan or some other kind of loan, or, just start with the basics and build up, have a master plan, that's a lot more doable. And it's more common sense that you build it over time. If you're going to try to get a phenomenal living room all at once, you're probably not going to be able to. I mean, you can do plywood cubes and paint them, or covered with fabric. There's a lot of things you can do that can get you by, especially tables, cocktail tables, flat surfaces, and things like that. When it comes to upholstery, things you sit in, you pretty much have to buy that, or, buy it at a consignment store or something, or buy used, or somebody's getting rid of some furniture that they want to upgrade to. I mean, there's a lot of different ways you can go about it, and it does take some imagination, but it starts with a concept. What is it that you want? How do you want it to look? How do you want it to feel? You kind of start with that first. Then you have to say, what do we have to work with in terms of money? And then how do we allocate that? Where can we compromise and look good until we can afford to get something better? So there's lots of different ways you can compromise to get a phenomenal, creative, dynamic look. But it's going to take more creativity and maybe more in design costs to do it on the cheap, but still do something that's stunning and that is not the norm. You have to almost go outside of the norm to create something very unique, to be able to do it in a budget realm so that it looks more designerly. So you can't be afraid to go outside and go beyond what most people would think they would like. In other words, you've got to be bold to do it. And you can't be worried about other people's opinion about what you're doing. So there's a ton of things you can do. You can buy used rugs. You can go to consignment stores. You can do so many things. I mean, I've made seating out of building a base. You put a twin mattress on it and then make some pillows, and they don't have to be downfilled by any stretch. They can be just fiber fill, and make other things that maybe they're laminated tables. I mean, there's so many different ways you can creatively do it. I've done it. I've done it. And you can make chairs too. I've done that too. I've had design chairs that would be upholstered, and they're made out of plywood, and then they look totally custom because they are custom. So you can design them and have a carpenter build them, and then have somebody else upholster them. So there is a ton of ways that it can be done. You have to almost know exactly what it is that you're up against and that you want to accomplish in order to really get into the nitty gritty. I could go back into jobs that I've done, open up the files of jobs that I've done in the past, and look at the design and look at what I did. But those were done several years ago. And there is always a way. And sometimes I guess it could be said that where there's a will, there is a way. But it's a creative way. It's not mainstream by any stretch of the imagination. It's hard to give exact, I could, but right now on the podcast, it would be hard for me to go into all the details without going back into the archives and looking at it and explaining it. I think sometimes that's better done with a video. But upcoming, I'm going to be doing courses, and they are going to be expensive. And there is going to be a master class that I'm going to be giving for interior design. It's going to be pretty comprehensive, but it's not going to be cheap either, because then I can go into all the details. There's going to be videos, audio, all kinds of different things. On a podcast, you have to use your words to try to describe things in such a way that people can imagine what it is. There are advantages to that, definitely. Like when I'm coming up with a concept for someone, whether they be a cardiologist or a physician, a surgeon, a business owner, coming up with the mission statement, describing what it is you want to accomplish, what it's going to look like, what it's going to feel like in words. You're capsulizing that in a few sentences or a paragraph. So you are, and I always like to start out with the concept in word form, written down so that it is the yardstick or the benchmark by which all future and subsequent design decisions and budget decisions are going to be made. So it's like a roadmap, and you've got to have a roadmap. You've got to have a master plan, even if it's verbal description of what you're trying to attain. That is so, so critical. All right. Well, that's it for this podcast. I thought it'd be interesting to bring up some of these questions that are brought up online, and then whoever it is that answers them, I don't know exactly who, but some of the answers are good up to a point for your average situation, or maybe even below average, but it doesn't attest to what transpires in the upper middle end or the high end or the super elite design world. It blows that all out of the water. So anyway, you have to look at it from your particular situation, the house or apartment you're in, your budget, where you're going to be in the next couple of years, what you're striving for. If it's a house that has longevity, you can stay in it for decades, then it makes sense to do a lot of things for your own personal comfort in terms of furniture, which you can take with you if you have to move somewhere else or you have to relocate. But nonetheless, a good house is still a good house. It's got good bones. There's a lot of houses that just don't have good bones, and the fact that they're poorly designed, the floor plan is terrible. But when you find one that's really supreme, you can work with it and know that you've got something solid to work with. And that is a blessing. And you can hold on to that for years and have a satisfying abode and home. So take it all into consideration. There's a lot that needs to be taken into consideration. That's why real pros like myself lead you and guide you into that, where we go into this in depth before we really start designing. That's why sometimes these people that come up with design in a day is kind of like, nothing really good design happens in one day. There's a lot more to it than that. So you might be able to do a few things that looks like design in a day, but it's not what you want to do. I mean, you can't even get dental work done like you want braces to correct your teeth. That's not going to be done in a day. So there's a lot of things that aren't done in a day. Cars aren't designed in a day. A lot of things aren't designed in a day. They take a lot of thoughtful preparation and thoughtful implementation of really well thought out design ideas and concepts. Okay, nothing that you want to rush. Okay, well, that is the end of this podcast. Look forward to coming to you again in another episode. And I hope you enjoy your day. And I hope this has been, again, a catalyst for you that expands your thinking. All right? Hopefully that is what is done for you. So, thinking things through carefully is very, very important. So give yourself some time. Give yourself some breathing room. All right, everybody. Have a fantastic day. We'll talk to you next time.